whichever is
Yeah.
convenient. So thank you
So
so
now
much.
I'll switch off.
Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of New Food Spectrum for this wonderful webinar, which is titled Immunity Boosters: What Ayurveda, Nutraceutical, and the Food Industry Can Do Post Lockdown. Now, the COVID 19 crisis has led to high levels of psychological distress and significant impact on mental health, accompanied with alterations in immune function, including an increased risk of viral respiratory tract infections. This risk is bound to increase as the lockdown is gradually getting lifted across the country. Now, to speak on Ayurveda, which is a traditional system of medicine, and our traditional food systems and nutraceuticals, as we all know, can provide some protection as they pay larger emphasis on building strength on mind and body to cope with various stresses, including infection. And this can be achieved by embracing an Ayurvedic diet with nutraceuticals on a regular basis. As a result, the food processing industry, as we see, is continuously working towards developing innovative products to serve this very purpose. Now, New Food Spectrum is taking the required step in this direction and bringing in experts face to face on how to unearth the true potential of traditional medicines, nutraceuticals, and healthy food for boosting our immunity. And for that purpose, we have on board with speakers with us. Now, to introduce them, we have Dr. Manoj Nesri, who is the Advisor Joint Secretary rank in the Ministry of Ayush Government of India. Then we have with us Dr. Lakshmi Mundkur, Vice President Biological Research, SAMI Labs. Then we have Dr. Pasupati Venkat, National Advisor for Food Safety, Federation of Hotel and Restaurant Association of India, as well as the lead expert of food safety training and certification with Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI. Also, we have Abhira Gautam, who is the manager in the strategy division of the chairman's office at Omni Active Health Technologies. Then we have our Ayurveda expert, Dr. Pratap Chauhan, who's the director of Jiva Ayurved. And we have Dr. Vilas Ramrao Shirati, who's the technical director of Natural India. Now, let's begin our discussion with our first speaker, Dr. Manoj Nesri. Sir, can we have you on board, sir?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, sir. Please share some insights with us on this very interesting topic that I just mentioned.
Yeah, thank you very much for organizing this webinar, especially on the food, because before there were many webinars and many webinars going on, basically targeted on the immunity and the medicines, but there was not much importance which was given to the food and the diet. And this is a very important factor when we talk about the immunity. As you know that the advisory which is given by the Ministry of Ayush, so first of all, it has focused on the fresh food as well as the good quality of food. So before actually we go to the specific items, it is very important that what should be the quality of food. That is very much important, and good that we have FSSI on board as of today. But at the same time, it is not just the quality of the food items, but overall how do we eat, in what environment we eat, what are the surroundings, all those kind, they really do matter. And especially when we are talking about the hygiene, they have self hygiene, the hand hygiene, the social hygiene, and so on. So in that context, it is very much required, it is very much necessary. So the quality of food is very much important. At the same time, how much do we, whether our diet is balanced diet or our diet is an appropriate quantity, whether we are taking. So all those aspects are there, and whether it is really fresh. And there are many researches which tells us that as the food is kept, so gradually there is deterioration, and that deterioration also leads to the hampering the quality. So this aspect of food is also very much important. Now coming to the various items, that why the Chyawanprash and the Amla and the cinnamon are there in the advisory of the Ministry of Ayush. And if you see most of these items which are the ministry has recommended, so these are primarily the food items which are very easily available in our kitchen, and it is available worldwide. So it is not only in India but worldwide. And so at the same time, there is a lot of research which is done on these items, whether it is cinnamon, whether it is amla, whether it is turmeric, and so on. At the same time, there is a solid principle behind these various items, and these principles are based on Ayurveda, or the Ayurvedic principles, you can say. Say, for example, the Avla is called as a Vayasthapana. So Avla is the Vayasthapana, Avla is a Jivaniya. So there are different categories which are described in Ayurveda. And to summarize in a nutshell, I would say that Avla is the best rejuvenator. So it rejuvenates the cells. And there is a lot of research which is done on Avla, that how actually it rejuvenates, at or which tissue does it act, and of which are the different disease conditions where actually it act, how does it act, and so on. So amla is best free radical scavenger. So it reduces the stress. So it helps us in reducing the stress. And when we talk about the stress, so it is the physical stress as well as the mental stress, and amla works very well on both these conditions. When amla is taken for a long time, so it gives effects at the chromosomal level, at the mitochondrial level. So there is a paper which is published from Japan, that the amla, if it is taken, so it improves the mitochondrial respiratory reserve. So that means it is again and one more criteria to demonstrate that it is a rejuvenator, and it reduces the stress. There are other researches which are done on Avla regarding to assess the other effects. Say, for example, in diabetes, the combination of Avla and turmeric, when it was given, so it is found that it also prevents the chromosomal damage, which is very common in diabetes. Rather, chromosomal damage is there in all the disease conditions. At the same time, normally also it is being happening in our day-to-day life. But when the diabetes or such kind of diseases are there, so that time it is more, and this Avla helps in reducing the chromosomal damage. So likewise, the Avla, when it is given to the Drosophila fly as a experiment, it was found that it lengthens the length of the telomerase, and the increasing the length of telomerase is an indicator that it increases the lifespan. And the lifespan can be increased when the quality of the tissues is of the utmost quality, or they are of the good quality. So it is one more indicator. So likewise, there are number of indicators on which the Avla has been studied at length in this Drosophila example. And it is not done by only one person, but there are many other scientists, and this experiment was repeated at various places by various scientists. So beginning was done by Dr. Lakhotia, and then there are many others, those who use this model. And it was found that it increases the lifespan of the Drosophila significantly. The Avla was also tried on the zebrafish, is another model in the pharmacology which is used, and there also it showed the similar effects. So likewise, a lot of research has been done on Avla. And the Chyawanprash, which is one of the important Rasayan medicine, or the Rasayan formulation of Ayurveda. So that is based on Avla. So that's why the Chyawanprash we recommended in this advisory. And the Chyawanprash can be consumed throughout the year. It is not necessary to consume the Chyawanprash in the winter season, but it can be taken throughout the year. And there are a number of people, those who are taking Chyawanprash throughout their life, rather, I would say. So these rasayana drugs, they are really very important. And as you know that there is a concept in Ayurveda called as Kha Vaigunya. Now, Kha Vaigunya is means that there is some kind of deformity or some kind of weakness in a particular system, especially when we are talking about the COVID pandemic. So in that, it is well known that those who are having the comorbidity, so they are at the risk of getting this infection, and this comorbidity leaves the weakness in either in the respiratory system or whatever the disease is there. Say for example, it could be heart, it could be lungs, it could be kidneys, and that weakness made them susceptible to the coronavirus. And the rasayana or the rejuvenators, so they are the best to improve your immunity. And with this improved immunity, and when we talk about the immunity, it is not only the general immunity, it is system specific immunity, that is respiratory system or the cardiovascular system or the genitourinary system. At the same time, it also improves the immunity of the particular organ. And that's why this rasayan is very much important. And this concept of Ayurveda and this advisory of Ayurveda, it is highly scientific. Ministry is also undertaking a lot of research on that. We have also launched the research with the international partners, and so that we can come out with the documents. We are doing large cohort studies on these various items, whether it is chompraj, whether it is cinnamon, and so on. Say, for example, we are having one study on the Delhi police, the 80,000 Delhi police, they are the frontline workers. And as per the initial reports, the results are very, very encouraging. And we are optimistic that we can come out with specific drugs which are based on Ayurveda, the specific food items. Already there are many food items which are there in the market. Say, for example, whether it is turmeric milk, whether it's chompraj, whether it is something else, and these are thronging the market. So I would suggest that these various food items which are based on the Ayurveda, which are having the principles of Ayurveda, at the same time they are studied at length for their rejuvenation activity. At the same time, they also have the antiviral activity. Say, for example, cinnamon and tulsi, they also have the antiviral activity. So they can be used at length, and they can be used very comfortably without any side effects, and that will definitely give the protection to the people of the country, and not only of the country, of the entire world. So this is actually the advice or the advisory that the ministry has given, and within a month or two we'll come out with the definite results on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, it was very interesting to know all these wonderful insights from you and from Ayush Ministry. Thank you so much, sir. So now I'm going to direct the floor to our next speaker, who is Mr. Lakshmi Munkur. Ma'am, can we have you on board? Yes, yes, very clear, ma'am. Please start.
And the presentation I would like to,
Yes.
yeah. Can I start?
Yes, yes, please, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, so thank you, Dr. Malvina, for this introduction. I'll start with yeah. Now there are so many. The research is going on developing new drugs, new the vaccine for this coronavirus infection. But then, yeah, we are talking about Ayurveda and how the food or the nutritional supplements can help you in building a good immune system. Now, if you look at the internet now, the most highly searched word probably is the immunity. Now, everybody is talking about immunity and how immunity has to be improved for having a good to respond to this viral pandemic. Now, our immune system, if you see, is one of the most intricate network of cells with soluble factors. It's so well controlled that for every action there is a control along with it, and there is a reaction. So the immune system, it's not just boosting the immune system, but you need to have a balanced immune system to fight against any infection. So the activated immune system demands higher energy, and that's why you need a proper nutrition. And what is required is the micronutrients and also some of the uh, herbs and new herbs which help actually the immune system to build itself to fight infection. Now, if I don't know, my slides are not moving. So for healthy immune system, you need the minerals like selenium and zinc, which are very important. The antioxidants, which are like vitamins and phytonutrients, which provide protection. And the some of the phytonutrients, as was spoken earlier, have antiviral activities and they have immunomodulatory activities. And then we also need the probiotics or the prebiotics, which are very important to keep your gut very strong. So I'll go to it a little later, where the gut plays a very important role in the overall immunity. Now, the next one, just going through some of them. I have not covered all the nutrients. There are plenty to be spoken about, but a very few of them which are very important for building the immune system. So, starting with selenium. Selenium is one of the most important micronutrient with antiviral activity, and it also strengthens the immunity. So there has been the selenium deficient people are more prone to the disease. So that says that selenium probably has some important role in providing nutrients and enhancing the immunity to infection. The next one is the zinc, which can I have the next one? Zinc, which is an essential trace element. And there was a recent paper which was published in this medical hypothesis in 2020, which talked about the hydroxychloroquine, which was being used for COVID treatment, could target the zinc to the RNA, to the lysosomes, where it interferes with the RNA polymerase activity of the coronavirus and prevents its replication. So that way, like zinc proves to be one of the important micronutrient, which again is very important to strengthen your immune system. The next one, we go on to the vitamins. There are vitamins, of course, are very important, but I would specifically talk about vitamin D, which has antimicrobial peptides and resistance to respiratory tract infection. And the most important point about vitamin D is there was a strong correlation which was observed between vitamin D deficiency and mortality rate, especially in countries of the Europe which do not get enough sunlight and they are very deficient in vitamin D. So again, this is another important nutrient which we need to include in our daily diet to have a good immune system to fight against the infections. The next we talk about some of the phytonutrients. I would start with turmeric or curcuma, which all of us know. We have been drinking turmeric milk and having turmeric all through our like. We probably know it much more than any other part of the world. Now, along with the antioxidant or the anti-inflammatory activity of this curcumins, it also has antiviral activity. And the most important aspect of this curcumin is that it prevents acute respiratory distress syndrome. And this is what is causing a lot of distress in COVID patients, where the respiratory infection leads to excessive cytokines and what is known as cytokine storm, and that is causing multi-organ failure and death in many cases. And curcumin has been shown to inhibit this excess of cytokines, and that way it's a very important uh, nutrient that we should be taking every day. The next one is the ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, we know, all of us know it as an adaptogen. More than anything else, right now, with the kind of stress that is involved, see, stress is something which is very bad for the immune system. The more you're stressed, your immune system is going down. And then, because of this COVID infection, and we are sitting at home, we are not able to move out, and the stress levels are increasing. And the adaptogen like ashwagandha can help to relieve the stress. Apart from that, it also has nutrients like withanolide A, which have immunostimulatory activity. And recently, like if I can we mention this, IIT Delhi also came up with a report saying methanones can block the COVID-19 viral replication protein. So that way, ashwagandha is one of the most important adaptogen that we should probably be taking to relieve us from the tension, the stress, and also to improve our immune system. Then I think and then we have andrographis. Andrographis, I'm mentioning it because this is known as Kalmeg, and traditionally it has been used for the management of infection and strengthening immune function. And the recent, like for dengue fever and all, andrographis was used, and it was found to be very, very important. And it has, since it has antiviral activity, it has anti-allergic activity, it has immune stimulatory activity, so it can stimulate the production of antibodies, which are very important to fight your infection. And then I'll quickly go through some of the other herbs, which are like ginger or licorice. Licorice is mulethi, which we probably use very often, but to get relief from cough. But now the most important phytonutrient in licorice is glycyrrhizin, which is again a compound which can prevent allergy, or it can prevent excess inflammation, and it can also have. So all these are very important for your to build your immune system. So then ginger, as we all know, it's a bronchorelaxant. And again, this has been known to reduce the acute respiratory distress syndrome. And then use of ginger has been shown to lessen the ventilator use. So again, ginger is a very important phytonutrient when it comes to uh, respiratory infections. And tulsi again has immune enhancing and antiviral activities. The constituents of tulsi, especially the essential oil like eugenol, have antiviral activity, and it has been shown to increase your natural killer cells in a clinical trial. So this also shows that when you have more of natural killer cells, and these are the ones which are going to kill the infected, the viral infected cells. So that way, it is going to help you in fighting against infection. And then we have this, I mean, not many people talk about Nigella or the black seed, but it is one of the very well-known herb in the Arab countries, where where it is told, it is like taken as it can provide you relief from everything except death. So it protects against bronchial spasms, it protects against asthma, bronchitis, cough. So these are all the using black seed in your regular cooking or regular food, or putting it on your salad, also will help you in again building up your system, immune system, and fighting against the disease. Now I'm coming to the probiotic aspect, the gut microbiome, which is a very, very important role in immune homeostasis and balance of the response. So dietary intake of probiotics, we are all used to it because we take a lot of fermented food, but probiotics definitely are the ones, like we keep eating so many things, everything goes into your stomach. And how do you know, how does the stomach or the mucosal immune system understand that this is what I should keep, this is what I should not react to? So that's where your mucosal immune system plays a very important role. And the commensal bacteria, which is present in your mucosal system, they help your immune system to understand what is self, what is non-self, and it enhances your immune system, and it also goes to the peripheral immune system to say that this is to balance, have a immune homeostasis and have a balanced response. You do not want something which is extra and going into the chronic inflammatory state, but at the same time, you don't want something which is underreactive. So the immune system of the gut balances the overall immune reaction which takes place in the body. So this is a very important aspect, and in Ayurveda also, if I remember, it is said that as long as you keep your digestive system strong, no illness can affect you. So that way, these probiotics are very, very important to keeping your immune system strong. So coming to to conclude, what I would say is, it's not health is not the absence of germs or toxins, but it is how well your body responds to it. So your if you have a robust immunity, you have good health. So build your immunity, take a lot of uh, nutrients, keep your body strong, then you can fight any infection that comes along. So you will try to avoid a pandemic next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That is indeed a wonderful message that you have given, how to keep the immunity strong, and that is an indication of better health. Now, as we get warmed up with the idea of so many natural ingredients around us which can help us a lot, let's turn the table and move to the regulatory and food safety side and get some insights from Dr. Pasupati. Please, sir.
Everyone, it's very exciting amidst people who make a change, and very happy to have listened to the Ayush Ministry and so also to Dr. Lakshmi. I do not know whether FSSAI had a foresight of all these things, but we very actively, what we did was that the Swasth Bharat Yatra was more focused on the eat right, habit throughout the country, and that eat right was such a great success. And it in fact brought back so many traditional foods, so many seasonal foods, so many natural immune boosters to the fore. And FSSA, as such, in the new regulations that came on health supplements and nutraceuticals, it is a very, very clear and all-inclusive regulation. I may be lead expert in FSSA, but I'm also an industry representative representing, FHRI in FSSAI. Now, I saw three things in these regulations. Three very important things, which I think, as a citizen, is so important in any regulation. Number one, these regulations, give a very good direction to the industry on how do you apply for a license when you get a new product, or bring in a very traditionally well-known product in a new form. Number two, when something which is not in the normal parlance of science, but brought in from the traditional science into a new format, the consumer should not be misguided. So the labeling regulations with regard to this are so good that the consumer will never be misinformed or misguided. So FSSAI has ensured, or rather empowered, that the consumer gets the right information through the labeling. And three, what is very exciting about this regulation is that the regulator is also playing a role of nudging innovation, where if you read the regulation very, very detailed, you will understand that it has kept the house open for acceptance of new research, for a very healthy debate to take place whenever somebody gives something which is very novel, and based on accepting research papers with peer review, and accepting whatever which is traditionally used for 15 years in India or 30 years abroad. So on the whole, these regulations have ensured to the citizens of the country and to everybody in the world that here is a regulator who's ready to accept innovation with a lot of traditional knowledge, and which has got a very country like ours, which has got so much of traditional wisdom, particularly when we are faced with such a disease which is unknown, for which a declared medicine is not available as on date. But it is our immune system, which is our own food system, that has got to give majority of the answers. In fact, the truth in Tamil Nadu is that the patients are served with Kapasura Kudineer, a traditional combination of herbs, which is under the advice of the Siddha Medical Council. The health ministry is advocating, and it is giving tremendous results. And the mortality rate is so low, the discharges are fantastic. But how is FSSAI acting in all these things? I think, in addition to whatever was there in the natural labeling regulations, FSSAI has introduced 9 very important things for any special claim as health supplement, or special food supplement for use, or special for medical purpose, or nutraceuticals. Please understand these 9. These are very, very important and so significant. The label must specify the target consumer group. The label must specify which is for which physiological disorder or disease. Number 3, it must specify what is the recommended duration of use. Number 4, it should say what is the nature and purpose of the article. Number 5, it must say what are the instructions and precautions while using this as something. And number 6, it should clearly say whether it's an L supplement or a nutraceutical, etc., etc. And number 7 is it should mention whether it is for not for medical use, and if it is for specially for medical use, it should mention that. And number 8 is the common name, and number 9, it should say store out of reach of children. So it has played a fantastic balance. And why did I get into these details? Because it has played a fantastic balance between these two, on bringing something from the tradition to the forefront of the market, and for an organized industry to get in and get the proper license and to declare what it is doing with the background of science. And like how the consumer will have a right to information, because it is not a trick or it is not something like which is a concealed trick, which is very open, which is very transparent in the formulation, so that the consumer can read, and he will also have the advantage of knowing how to use it. So you will be very surprised when you read these regulations, that it is any person with common sense can easily read and comprehend, and it is all open. It's a free download. It's all open, so that you can know what are the additives that are allowed in these nutraceuticals, what are the colors that are allowed, what are the different vitamins and minerals that are allowed. What are the different plants that are already agreed or already known? Suppose if you are getting something from the botanical or plant source origin, and if it is non-plant origin, like what should be there. So apart from the normal information like your MRP, weight, or manufacturing date, or vegetarian or non-vegetarian, etc., these informations empower the customer to understand what is right and what is wrong, at the same time ensuring that the industry gets the right space to compete. Because let me tell you, the future of perhaps the Indian food market is largely reliant on how do we make these products about which we have a wealth of information in this country available. Because as somebody hails from Tamil Nadu and speaks Tamil, I can proudly say that languages like Tamil and Sanskrit have got so much of a wealth of information of 3,000, 4,000 years with us on this, the importance of food ingredients based on seasons, based on different age group of people in different different stages of their life, for different disorders, how to take things. So to make all these claims correct, to very, very substantiated, it is all. We are also fortunate that the country is fast moving towards scientific research, and we have got so many laboratories that can isolate the bioactive molecules, and so many spectrum studies are happening, so that we are able to identify the compounds, identify and then tweak them to give best results for the country. And FSSA, for all that has got these 3 beautiful divisions. One which states that how will you produce it. For that the rules are very tight jacket. It's very clear that this is how your premises should be, this is how you should employ people, this is how your equipment should be, these are the hygienic conditions, these are the sanitation conditions, this is how you will do. So that is wonderful. The second is, it is giving that freedom where we can give what you have formulated and exchange the notes with the FSSAI, so that the FSSAI will tell you if it is something out of the box, out of what it is already printed. Then it will, through an expert panel, tell you whether it is right or wrong, or whether it's accepted or not. And if it is a research paper, published research paper with peer review, it is very open to accept it. So you can validate and say that this is that. And third, it has already gone ahead with nudging the whole society on how to eat right. In fact, through the Eat Right Challenge, which it is recently promoted on July 1st to all the states, FSSAI has given 10 to 15 marks on innovative things for making the country's health system better through the food. and so it is giving the chance for the industry to come out, and the regulators also to closely work with the industry, so that the society gets benefited from the traditional wisdom. So as far as FSSA is concerned, normally, we ask this question, is the regulator just a regulator, or is very inclusive with all the stakeholders? I think the answer is yes. Yes, there could always be debates, like, when we put the minimum and maximum limits for certain things, there could always be a debate. No, the immune boosters have to have, you can even go up to 100, 200 mg. Why is FSSA putting this limit? There could always be some space for debate, and FSSA is willing to accept those debates. And if it finds there is a lot of scientific sense in it, definitely, it takes up the issue. I have first-hand experience as an industry representative, how I have represented so many things and got the right kind of answers from the FSSAI. I have found that it has always validated. So, I think that the as a regulator, FSSA is very clear in telling how the label should be, which is very important for the consumer. It has told that how we will act and accept this. So I think with these words, I will wind up my first round. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity, and I'm happy that I get to hear a lot of good things from all the co-panelists, and I'm waiting to listen more to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pasupati. That was indeed very insightful coming from the regulator body itself. Now, when he said about the food labeling, which makes us go to another industry expert here, that is Abhirag with us. And let's see what he has to say about this aspect. Abhirag.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm from OmniActive Health Technologies, and I would want to walk you through, broad information about the markets and also in context of immune health right now. So, Mr. Sanjay, would you like to take over, or would you like me to continue? Sure. So while we continue, before that, I'd like to quickly set the context. So yeah, so the main objective right now is to understand, how. Yeah, sure, Mr. Sanjay, we can do that.
Okay.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Sanjay Mariwala.
Sorry, I was late. I was just having a little difficulty getting in, but I got in.
No problem. Just a brief introduction for the other speakers at the audience. Since you've joined in late, that we have Mr. Sanjay Mariwala with us, who's the Managing Director of OmniActive Health Technologies from Mumbai. So please take over.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all. Sorry, I was late. I was at another meeting with the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Food Processing and Commerce, and we had to wrap that up, and then that took a little longer than we had anticipated. So I'm really sorry about this. Basically, we are going to talk about the situation in the nutraceutical sector, natural and preventive healthcare products pre and post COVID, and the idea is. What do we see, and what are the opportunities, and what are the challenges? And I think that's what we are going to address through this presentation. So if you bear with me, do I run through this, or is somebody else going to change the slides? Okay, great. So I've titled the slide Circa 2019. That was last year. That was 1 BC as far as I'm concerned. That is 1 year before COVID. That's BC for me. Let's look at the biggest market in the nutraceutical space. That is the US market, which has been driven by consumer growth in the US market is being driven by consumer preferences. And I think there is some tremendous interest in nutraceutical, in the natural and herbal products, and in terms of preventive healthcare. If you look at it in terms of dietary supplements, 81% of adults between the age of 35 and 54 take dietary supplements. 79% of adults at the age of 55 plus take dietary supplements, and 70% of adults between the age of 18 to 34 take dietary supplements. Now that's a very interesting market, and that's a great opportunity. There are 3 different segments, and each of them growing at a certain pace. And on an average, this makes 77% of US adults take dietary supplements across all sectors. Okay, basically the objective is good health and well-being, and these are driven by lifestyle changes and potential diseases, so that people want to prevent that. High amount of awareness, good trust leading to repeated purchase of nutraceuticals, which has created a resultant heavy growth in the market. And all this has happened because the industry has also played a very active role in building that trust. Next slide, please. The circa 2020, I call it the year when COVID struck the world, and I think a lot of companies wanted to wipe off 2020 from their agenda. I think a lot of people wanted to wipe off 2020 from their calendars. I believe that nutraceutical industry is probably the only one that is, I would say, COVID positive, where COVID has been good for us because it is fundamentally addressing the need of the customer at this point of time, which is prevention is better than cure. Okay, and how do we stay out of hospitals, stay away from doctors, those that you're not going to meet? In any case, you want to stay well and not get affected by them. Next slide, please. So basically, we are seeing there is a significant spike in growth. The growth projections have suddenly peaked. People are looking at new customers entering this space. We are looking at existing customers continuing their dependence on the products. And we are looking at existing customers also advocating to their family members and others to take on dietary supplements and preventive healthcare solutions as a part and parcel of managing COVID and managing their health going forward. And I think we see significant peak in the current growth projections. That's what the purple line shows. And this data is something that is, as we talk, is being played out in the market, and we are seeing a bulk of this come true. Next slide, please. The key trends in the US market, and let's look at what they do. Okay, basically there's a spike in immunity supplements. Google Trends show a huge upswing in the immunity category. Immunity supplement sales are up almost 100% across products. This addresses a clear identified need and rank high in consumer minds that immunity is what you want to build. Herbs and botanicals have also shown a great increasing trend towards, because of the growth has been over 18% in the pandemic. Natural ingredients-led solutions are preferred, and growing awareness in Ayurveda and its benefits is also demonstrated in this growth factors. Fundamentally, a lot of this is being driven by e-commerce surge. You know that not many stores were open, and today's stores are starting to get opened up, but up till now, a lot of business took place only on the internet. Okay. Next slide, please. The impact on consumers has been predominantly that they are looking at proactive self-care, which tends to continue the acceleration well past quarantine as well. A set of empowerment and actions that include exercise, diet, and use of over-the-counter medication and dietary supplements is helping them do this. Preventive healthcare trending higher than symptomatic products. Health and home care benefit most due to consumer preferences for protection for themselves and family. Online purchasing changing consumer behavior permanently, moving from replenishment only to daily fulfillment. An influx of new products driving product growth, providing opportunity to manufacturers to win consumers over long term. Increase of focused self-care may become the new normal as we are anticipating. Okay. What are the opportunities for India circa 2021 and beyond, which is, I call it after COVID, AC01, AC02. We are poised for growth, and we see tremendous opportunities taking place in terms of what can change for the Indian nutraceutical industry. We believe a CAGR of 17 to 18% is definitely possible. We have achieved it in the past, but we have slowed down a little bit. I think we need to step up a lot more and get after this growth opportunity. Basically, traditional knowledge combined with robust R&D and packaging science effectively. What I borrowed this line from somebody, I call it from shlokas to science. If we can take Ayurveda into science and sell it, and I think that would be a great opportunity for the Indian industry in the global arena. Today, we constitute only 2 to 3% of the global market, but we believe that we can be almost 10 to 15% of the global market if we played our cards right and built capability from India to the world and cater to the growing markets of the world. Next slide. Next slide, please. This is just a pretty picture. Okay. So let's look at the immune system. And I think the immune system is going to be the one key focus area for the next few years. COVID is not going to go away so easily. It's going to start establishing itself and be a part of our daily life. And people building immunity against COVID or any other such illness is going to be a need for the human population. The immune response in the body remains in the homeostatic balance in healthy conditions. Elevated immune systems leads to tissue injury. Suppressed immune systems leads to opportunistic infections such as lung diseases. These are caused by viral infections also. And immunostimulants help maintain robust immune systems. And India has many immunosuppressant ingredients that we can work on and develop many more products using these effectively. These are just a spattering of an example of which are working well today. We can do other products as well. Next slide, please. What should Indian companies do? I think fundamentally focus on product development, which is leveraging India's chemistry expertise, pharma knowledge, and natural ingredient agribase. Generate and build awareness on strong science and related claims. Differentiate your product, demonstrate efficacy and optimum dosage costs. Customers and consumer preferences. Continuous feedback from customers and consumers to drive innovation and product enhancement and differentiation. Improve the reach and penetration by developing internet-based sellers. I think they are the ones who are going to get you the maximum amount of access to customers. Globally, we should expand. We should take cognizance of the US-China trade standoff today, leverage the opportunity to replace China and provide solutions in the global market, and build scale. Take plans to exponentially grow and take some risks. That's what the industry should do. Next. And what should the government do to support us? Provide due recognition to the natural products industry. Provide some incentives for raw material production to improve the natural agriculture base. And we are not talking about monetary incentives. We are talking about policy initiatives and incentives. Medicinal plants and research will drive innovation and help Indian companies stand out. Policies on product standardization, key factors in shaping industry development. Minimize adulteration or eliminate adulteration will help consumer trust for credible ingredients. Make in India should be good, and it should not be treated as that Indians are cheats. We need to separate out HSN codes for the nutraceutical industry. Better categorization and growth tracking is possible then. Creation of a dedicated desk for nutraceuticals at the Ministry of Commerce and at the FSSAI. We need a lot of attention here because the nutraceutical industry is in the formation stages and is evolving well. I think we need to support that by providing it a helping hand. Next. Thank you. That I think covers everything I needed to say about the nutraceutical industry and what opportunities exist in today's world.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mariwala. That was indeed very insightful and wonderful perspective coming from the nutraceutical industry. And of course, as we are hearing our experts, we are thorough with this information that natural ingredients are here to stay, which can actually help us strengthen our immune system. And this takes us to another Ayurveda expert we have on board with us. And we'll speak with Dr. Pratap Chauhan now from Jiva Ayurved. Sir, the floor is yours. I'll request Mr. Mariwala to please turn off your mic and audio.
Sure.
So, namaste everybody. I was hearing some wonderful speakers and also Dr. Manoj Nesri, our Ayush advisor. He already spoke about certain Ayurvedic herbs and Ayurvedic formulations which are already being used, and we are seeing tremendous results. I'm a practitioner and I have been working in the field for last 3 months already. We have been dealing with a lot of patients, not only from India, but from all over the world. And there is a tremendous interest that we are seeing in Ayurveda. People are turning to not only just the Ayurvedic herbs and the formulations, but even simple things in relation to lifestyle, in relation to our food, which we had forgotten. So since we are now in the unlocking mode, and of course, as the previous speaker also mentioned, that Corona is not leaving us, it's not going to go for a while at least. So we have to learn to live with Corona. Of course, People have now this so-called PPE, this personal protection equipment that you all see that people are wearing when you go to hospital, or even the other frontline workers are using. So I would like to just mention to you from Ayurvedic perspective what we can do when we go out, because we have to live with corona, and what things are possible. Very simple things. So I'm going to explain to you 5 layers of protection. I call it the Ayurvedic PPE. So the first layer, which is very simple, very ordinary, very effective, it's applying oil on our body. Oil massage, which is called Abhyanga, is a very, very traditional method. In the ancient times, everybody used to do massage on their body every day. Now it has become more like a Ayurvedic treatment, and wherever you go in a hotel or you go in a spa, so there is some Ayurvedic massages available. But in your home, use sesame oil, use mustard oil, use coconut oil. Every day, if you apply oil on your body, so this gives not only just protection against microbes, but it also does a lot of, gives a lot of support to your immune system. According to Ayurveda, it detoxes the skin. It also builds the tissues, and it also helps the nervous system. There are many, many benefits of that. I don't want to go, but this is very, very important. Another thing which is the Ayush Ministry has also advised, and it's become very popular, putting oil in your nose, because nose is the door through which this virus is entering into your system. So if we put every day, morning, evening, 2 drops of sesame oil or coconut oil or mustard oil, or we have medicated oil, Anu oil, this is very effective. Even you can apply some oil in ears, and oil pulling technique has become very popular. Again, it's an Ayurvedic technique. 1 tablespoon of oil put in your mouth in the morning, and you just you do some swishing for a few minutes, then you throw it out. Gargle with warm water and salt, and you should also do some steam. You can take hot water, put some ajwain seeds, put some fresh mint, or if you have some eucalyptus leaves or eucalyptus oil, you can put a few drops. So this is the first layer of protection, the outer layer. I call it the outer layer. The second layer, when we talk about immunity in Ayurveda, we do not forget the digestive system. The previous speaker spoke about probiotic and also the microbiome gut. So in Ayurveda, we call it Agni. Our Agni has to be very, very strong. And there are many things, what the previous speakers talk, whether it is ginger or whether it is, cinnamon or all these things, they are primarily also working on Agni. They have antiviral, benefits also. But we can say from Ayurvedic perspective, when our Agni is strong, when our digestive fire is strong, this has the power to eat up all the microbes. It has power to eat up all the toxins. So you can make a very simple water every day. I call it the detox water. 1 liter water. In this you add 1 teaspoon of fennel soft, 1 teaspoon cumin, 1 teaspoon coriander powder, and 1 teaspoon fresh ginger. Boil it nicely, filter and fill it in a thermos. Keep it with you, and all day, slowly you can sip it. You can use it like a tea every day, and you can use it. On your dining table, you should have fresh ginger ready. You can soak it in lemon juice. Every time you eat your meals, take about a teaspoon of this mixture, eat it. Also, the Ayush Kwath, which has now become very popular, somewhere down the line, it definitely helps with the respiratory tract, but it also works at the Agni level, because all the ingredients, if you see in that, whether it is cinnamon or it's black pepper or it's ginger or tulsi, they're all working in the digestive system. And you can make many other such teas. You can also chew a piece of clove and black pepper. This is a very nice thing. After each meal, you should keep black pepper and clove in your pocket. After each meal, 1 piece of each. Just chew it so that the juice goes in your throat. This is completely very nice and antiviral, and it will clean up all the throat. And definitely in Ayurveda, we also talk a lot about how you enhance your digestive fire. There are many formulations. In fact, in Ayurveda, I would like to mention, when we talk about immunity or we talk about any kind of preventive medicines, formulations, it is all personalized, because each person is unique. So I would suggest that if you really want good Ayurvedic immunity boosters, you should consult with an Ayurvedic physician. Now, there's a lot of Ayurvedic physicians who are practicing. In fact, in Jiva, we have a telemedicine facility for last 15 years. We are running the world's largest Ayurvedic telemedicine, where we are consulting more than 5,000 patients every day. So you're welcome to, get personalized immunity boosters for your Agni or for your immunity. The third layer, which is again, where we talk about the immunity boosting, herbs or immunomodulators, or what we call rasayana in Ayurveda. This is what the term is ojas. We have to build up our ojas. Ojas is the vital fluid, or it's a vital energy in our body, which at the physical level, it will build up your immunity, it will build up your strength to fight any kind of microbes, bacteria, or any foreign bodies. But at the same time, ojas also helps you at the mental level. At psychological level, ojas helps to build your positive mind, your mental strength, which is very important, especially in this current crisis. So many people have, become negative. They have become very weak in their mind. So there are many, rasayanas in Ayurveda, and let me make it very clear. The Ayurvedic rasayanas are not only working at physical level, they also boost your mental immunity. So Chyawanprash, Dr. Nesri already explained about it, 1 tablespoon of Chyawanprash, and he rightly mentioned Chyawanprash can be taken throughout the year. The main ingredient is amla, which is again a very nice rasayana. And because amla is not heating, some people think Chyawanprash is only good in the winter season. You cannot take it in the summer, but you can take it throughout the year. Of course, amla is available all the time. You can take amla powder, amla tablets, or amla murabba is available. Amla candies are also available now. You can use amla in any way. Giloy has become very popular. All these are like rasayanas. Giloy is now, like the topmost, selling herbs. Shatavari is another one, especially good for the females. Pipali, long pepper, also, Ayush Ministry has been doing some research taking pipali. And then not to forget our traditional herbs like neem. Neem is very good. If you have a neem tree, 5-6 leaves of neem tree every morning you can chew. There is a tulsi, which is very popular also. Tulsi, if you have in your home 3-4 leaves every morning, you can make a paste and just eat it. And I have been advising a very nice formula. I call it the Ojas milk. You just soak about 7-8 pieces of almonds in the night, and in the morning you remove the skin, just chop it, make a paste, and take 4 fresh dates. Make also small pieces of that. So dates and almonds boiled in a cup of milk, and on top you add a pinch of cinnamon powder, some elaichi, cardamom, and if you like, just a pinch of turmeric also. So this becomes your ojas milk. Every morning breakfast you can drink, or if you want to drink it in the night, you can take it. All these herbs, again, what I'm talking here, they have been all, studied, clinically verified that they all boost your immunity. They're having some kind of immunomodulating effect. Now the fourth layer, after the third layer. So first is an outer layer, cover with oil. Then second, your Agni, very important. Third, ojas is your strength or your immunity. Very important is fourth layer, is our mental layer, the mind layer. The mind power is very important. Strong positive mind, we all know, is a very big boost to our immunity. We have seen people with a negative mind, with fear, they're getting a lot of problems. So every day around 15 to 20 minutes or maybe half an hour pranayam. Pranayam is very nice for boosting your mental energy. You can do pranayam, you can do yoga, you can do meditation. For the mental strength also, we have a very nice herb, Medhya Rasayan. There is a whole branch of Medhya. Medhya means, that enhance your intellect. So Brahmi is very popular. Or again, you can make a stress buster milk. If you are feeling a lot of stress, anxiety, almonds are very good. 7 almonds, you soak them in water, remove the skin, chop into small pieces, add 1 cup of milk, add 1 teaspoon of fennel, saunf, very, very nice for the brain, and a pinch of dalchini, which is cinnamon, little bit elaichi and haldi. And if you can get rose petals, either dry or fresh, 2 or 3 pieces of rose petals in this milk, you make it nicely, boil it and drink. This is a very nice stress buster milk. A lot of people, I've been using this all over the world. I travel to around 40-50 countries and I teach people, and they have been giving me wonderful feedback about this stress buster milk. Also, in Ayurveda, we say something, the word is very nice. You might have heard the word is sattva. So, sattvic food is very important. Sattvic food means the food that will enhance sattva in your mind, and mind will become strong and healthy. So, what is sattva? Anything that relaxes your mind. So, when we say food, it is not only what you're eating from your mouth, what you watch, what you hear, the people you hang out with, the things you read, everything you have to just be, very careful. Watch sattvic things, listen to some sattvic music, hang out with sattvic people. This is very, very powerful. A lot of, scientific clinical studies have been done around this subject also. Aroma is something very good for mind also. You can put some nice aromatic oils, some incense, and in Ayurveda, of course, we have this dhupan prakriya. We have a lot of herbs which are aromatic, which we burn, which are anti-microbial effect, and at the same time, they also relax your mind. And head massage, our old, traditional champi is very, very powerful to just relax the mind, and you get a good sleep. Also, for the mind, a good sound sleep is important. So if you're having problems with sleep, there's so many things in Ayurveda we can do. At least you can start doing a foot massage in the night before you go to bed, and 5 minutes of shavasana. You'll have a great sleep, nice sleep. Of course, as I keep mentioning again and again, if you have any problems, please do consult an Ayurvedic physician. They will give you personalized, all personalized treatment, whether it is your lifestyle or food or anything. And finally, the fifth layer, not to forget our own, own self, which is the Atma or the soul. The soul is also, Atmic bal. In Ayurveda, we say Sharirik bal, which is physical, strength. Then you have mental, Mansik bal, and also your Atmic bal or Adhyatmic bal is very, very important. And this is also a part of our immunity. So for the spiritual, thing, normally I talk to people in a very simple language. It's just love. Start loving yourself. And when I say loving yourself, start loving your heart, start loving your kidneys, your liver. Make sure before you put anything in your mouth, you ask your liver, is it good for the liver? Is it good for my heart? You have to start loving. Start loving your friends, your family, start loving the nature, the environment. This is a very simple way to practice spirituality. Of course, if you want to go a step deeper, start connecting with God. God is the creator of all this universe. We all believe in that, and we have to also connect with God, chant some mantras, do some kind of meditation. And finally, after all these 5 layers, we can go out and we can live with Corona forever if you want. If it doesn't go away, you will be very, very strong. And I just want to end up with saying that in Ayurveda, they have described pandemics in great details. There is a chapter called Janapadodhvans, where they're talking about what are the root causes, what are the treatments. So it has been described. There are many different types of, treatments, and many different types of preventive measures are there. And I would like to just say that every dark night has a morning. So don't worry, morning will come, light will be there. Let's be a little bit careful. Let's be a little bit cautious when we go out. I still see that people are not very serious. When I go out, I see people are walking without mask. They're not following any, the instructions given by the government. So this is not very good. Let's follow all the instructions. Let us connect with Ayurveda, and by connecting with Ayurveda, definitely we will have a strong immunity, and we can fight this crisis, and we can come out victorious. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan. That was indeed very beautiful of you to add element of spirituality into our session. Thank you very much. And as Mr. Mariwala had correctly said, that it is time to move from shlok to science, in fact, mix them together. So this takes us to the last speaker of our session, which is Dr. Vilas Shetty. Let's see what he has to say about this. Dr. Chauhan, can you please turn off your mic and video? Yes, Dr. Vilas Shetty, can we have you on board, please? Dr. Vilas Shetty, can you hear me?
Hello. Hello.
So can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Please continue what you have to say about all the wonderful discussion that we just had.
Okay. We heard from Ministry of Ayush perspective. We had an industrialite speak. We had a scientist speak about it. We had a regulatory FSSI representative. So we have covered many aspects. I would like to, as a last speaker, look at a macro view of the whole thing. We are into a situation where we are facing this endemic called COVID. There are no medicine and there's no vaccine. And cure right now is something that we are still struggling with. So under these circumstances, prevention obviously is the best thing. So prevention is better than cure is a saying which has become very relevant today. And we all know that food is the most cost-effective tool for prevention. Now, we at a macro level, we have been now, since the bill has been introduced on food security, we have been talking of food security and also nutrition security. If you look at the big picture, we have made a lot of progress in agriculture technology, food technology. We know a lot about nutrition science. We heard a lot about, we are bringing back Ayurveda to its prominence. We know about phytonutrients. We know about deficiencies of micro and macronutrients. But despite of all this, the reality is 90% of Indians are malnourished, either obesity or stunting, wasting, or deficiency in zinc, deficiency in selenium. Just to look at even the government statistics, the unfortunate part of is if you take anemia as an issue, 50% of this country still have iron deficiency. And why this is so important is our predetermination for a communicable or non-communicable disease gets formed during the first 1,000 days. That's from conception to 2 years of breastfeeding. In those 1,000 days, a lot of things happen. So the nutrition that we get as an individual at that stage is extremely important, and this issue needs to be addressed. So unless we address this larger picture of malnutrition through whatever tools and techniques that we have today, it's very difficult to fight this, not only COVID-19, but even in future, whatever this kind of disaster that we are going to face. Now, we are also slightly seeing over a period of time, a lot of things are changing in our dietary patterns. 50 years back, we used to eat coconut oil, we used to eat groundnut oil and sesame oil. But today, large number of Indians are consuming palm oil, and we are consuming sunflower, which were not they are new to this part of the world. What is the impact of that? And there was an exercise done some time back. On a table, we had placed ketchup and mayonnaise, which are the most popular condiments. And then we had a lot of chutneys, Indian chutneys made. There is a Brahmi chutney, there is a sesame chutney, and each chutney was designed to have a certain health benefit. And you can make beautiful chutneys, which can be the best dietary supplements if you see them in a contemporary view. But 80% of the kids just went for ketchup and mayonnaise. Nobody even looked at it. South Indians have this cultural habit of eating curd rice. We are not doing that anymore. I'll come back to the science behind it. 20 years back, our per capita consumption of dal was about 50 grams per person per day. Today, it has come down to 20 grams. Part of it is because we are switching over to the sandwiches, noodles and burgers and all that. None of them have a dal as a component. Now, all these things are adding to, we were a millet consuming country, which we are slowly moving to wheat. Not only wheat, we are moving to the maida, which is the one of the white poisons. Now, all these things have an impact. So ultimately, to change this macro picture, we need to do a lot of consumer education. It is not very easy to change consumer habits. Now, health is, whether it is overall health or even boosting immunity, it is a holistic approach. It cannot be said that I will take a kashaya and my immunity will get boosted, or I will do meditation, it will get boosted. You need to do multiple things. Today, there is so much of information that is coming to consumers. Sometimes it is over information that consumers are getting confused. what do I take in the morning when I get up? Do I take this kashaya or that kashaya, or do I take almonds soaked in water, or do I do pranayama first? So we need to communicate this whole thing in a very, very simplified manner, so that consumers eventually make whatever we are saying as part of their lifestyle. And even products that industries are launching have to fit into this consumer lifestyle. In that sense, I appreciate some of the things that are being now launched. Say, for example, the Haldi Doodh by Amul, the Ginger Doodh, and also Chawanprash, of course, has been there. Something that easily fits into my lifestyle. If I give you an elaborate procedure for making a kashaya, one, I may not have all the ingredients at a given time, or the procedure is so this thing that I may not have time in the morning. So if I take all of them in a powder form, put them in a tea bag and give it to you and say that instead of morning, you take it, this dip bag and have it. So some of these things we need to rethink, redesign to fit into consumers' current lifestyle. Now, it is said that many of you must have seen this, that there are 10 large companies in the world, which of course all of you know, are basically influencing what we eat. So is it a chicken and egg story that consumers demand for products which companies make, or companies launch products with their own mindset of profit or whatever it is, and then consumers start consuming them? It works both ways, but the fact remains is companies also have to get involved in this whole consumer education thing. Regulatory body FSSA has been doing a tremendous work in the last 5 years, or maybe even 10 years. There is a pink book, there is an yellow book, they have Eat Right movement, they have changed the labeling regulations. All of this, there is a big element of educating consumers, telling them what is right to eat. For example, vitamins are good for health. That doesn't mean if I add vitamins to sweet, it becomes healthy. If you must have heard about the famous statement by Dr. Branca, who is the director of WHA Department of Nutrition and Health, that adding vitamins to a sweet doesn't make the sweet healthier. If addition of vitamins encourages people to overindulge in sweets, it can be said to be harmful. So sometimes the communication goes to consumers in isolation. There is a product which says this contains so much of dietary fiber. But if you look at all other ingredients, there is a lot of trans fat, there is a lot of sugar, there are a lot of other things which are not good for you. So in isolation, it is highlighted that this product delivers a lot of fiber, which is good for your gut health. So communication should not be done in isolation. Again, agriculture and food are interconnected, as you know. There is a depletion of zinc in the soil, and that is leading to lower zinc amount in the rice that I eat, which is resulting in zinc deficiency. So the choice is I either take zinc supplement, or I do a biofortification of the rice crop itself and then get it naturally. But to that, I need to make sure that the soil is also supplied with zinc. So these are kind of interconnected. As we are growing less and less pulse, and farmers are not getting enough returns on pulses, we are importing a lot of pulses. But pulses are the best thing that we have for nitrogen fixation. In the absence of that, we will start adding more and more synthetic fertilizers. So we need to look at a macro picture before we start talking about boosting the immunity. Science-based products, there is a lot of traditional rich knowledge that we have, and they are all very valid, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's the traditional Indian food system and all. But many people today, the generation wants the science to be known. For example, when you eat curd rice, is it just because people like curd rice, or South India it is a tradition, or is there a science? If you eat curd rice made in a certain way, which is has the resistant starch coming from rice that acts as a fiber, and the curd acts as a probiotic, the combination is a symbiotic, which is very rich in taurine, and that leads to synthesis of serotonin in your when you sleep in the night. So that gives you sound sleep. Now, can we make the science this thing and communicate it that, and then say that how is the way now I deliver curd rice in a very convenient way? There was also a study that was done in terms of why do we eat dal and rice together, or dal and roti. Your protein in dal has a digestibility of 50%, and that of rice is 50%. But when you mix them in a proportion of 1 dal and 3 rice, the synergistic effect leads to the protein digestibility going to something like 75%. This is clinically proven by a lot of studies done in Canada. So there is a reason why the tradition has been developed. When you make dosa, we take 1 urad dal and 3 rice, and that is the combination. So the tradition has come because of a lot of trials and errors, and only thing is we need to communicate in the most scientific way. And talking of communication, avoiding communication in isolation, FSSAI now in the new labeling law has started addressing a lot of these things. I do know that from every angle, whether Ministry of Ayush, FSSAI, the industry, everybody is putting their pitch together to help people stay healthy. And but the net result, we still have a long way to go, and we need to continue to make more and more efforts. And the biggest thing that we need to do is to consumer education, why they should do it. And we need to educate consumer, giving the right reasons and giving the right science. And we must design and deliver product to them which easily fit into their daily lifestyle. Because if I give a complicated process of making so many things and say having so many of these kashayas or things, it will make the communication more complicated, and the result may be that they may not do anything. So that's I am taking a look at the macro picture and say that consumer education is very vital and we need to do more about it.
Well, thank you so much, sir. We indeed agree with you that consumer information is very important. And this takes us to the end of our session and towards the audience question and answers. And let's say if the consumers have actually something to ask. Can we have the audience question here? And can I also request the other speakers to please turn on their mics so that I can direct the questions to them? Okay, so I have received a question which says that how effective are the latest nutraceutical and the Ayurvedic products? I mean, are they safe? And I'm sure you can read the questions on board. So can I direct this question to Dr. Lakshmi?
Yeah. Most of if I take our example, the Sami Labs example, we generally do a lot of scientific evaluation of our products before it is launched in the market. So we start with some the in vitro or the lab-based studies, then we do some preclinical studies, and then they are taken for clinical studies. And then only we go to the market saying, okay, this is going to be effective for this particular health benefit. So and now the consumer awareness is also increased. People do ask what kind of research and whether it is patented, whether it is published, whether it is peer reviewed. So all these questions do play a role in the product being accepted and being taken by the people. So most of it, yes. Now, if you have a clinical trial done for the particular product, then it is definitely safer for consumption.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think we have another question which is directly towards Ayush. Can we have that question? And is Dr. Manoj there to please take this out? Dr. Manoj, are you there with us?
Yes, I am here. I am reading the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Or otherwise, you can read the question. That will be good for everybody.
All right. So the question says that Ayush Ministry should differentiate between the good food and the unhealthy food. We're given some example regarding the cold pressed mustard oil, which is very healthy, and why oil as compared to high heated chemically processed refined oil. So mustard oil is low cost and common man oil. Its benefits should be highlighted. So how would you differentiate that and highlight what is good, what is bad, sir?
Yes, it's a good question, and thanks for highlighting these issues. What actually Ayurveda has mentioned is related to the oil in general. It is not the cold press or some other different kind of methods, especially the present methods of extracting oil. So they were not being used in ancient time. So the description in Ayurveda is in general. Say, for example, what is the good oil? So sesame oil is supposed to be the best oil. That doesn't mean that the mustard oil is bad or the coconut oil is bad, but it says that what is the best. So, and this best is depending upon the condition also, as well as the depending upon the geographical condition also. And that's why in India, in different parts, different types of oils they are used. So I would say that in Ayurveda, it is primarily the good or the healthy items which have been defined and unhealthy items which have been defined. And here actually is the limited role of the Minister of Ayush. The remaining that whether it should be a cold press or whether it should be something else, so that comes under the umbrella of FSSAI.
So we have Dr. Pasupati. Could you just throw some light on this aspect as well?
See, we are having the nutrition and the for the oils, a systematic nutrition table is given. That will very amply illustrate what is healthy, and so that is a self-explanatory information. I think everybody can get benefited from it.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, before we take up more questions, because anyway we are running out of time, but one critical question which probably comes after the discussion and the conversation that we have had so far, that it is time indeed to mix the traditional with the modern, and to probably make changes in terms of regulations if need be, and give our customers or run the business in such a way that the end product should have an amalgamation of the traditional and the modern aspects. Mr. Sanjay Mariwala, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. I think it's an excellent question. I believe that we have a lot of knowledge in the tradition. We need to convert that knowledge and translate it into meaningful bits and pieces and bytes that consumers can understand and accept. So talking the consumer language is going to be the most important part, because how do you educate a consumer? First of all, the attention time span is limited. We need to be able to address the right type of science converted into marketing language that can tell the truth and in a very short form to the consumer and explain what the product does for him or her. And I think that's going to be the trick in converting the traditional science into modern science, using modern technology, making it acceptable to the modern foods in modern formats, made available to the consumer in a language that he understands. That's really what we should be able to do and we should focus on. And that's really where industry has to play the key role.
Definitely, and that would make the consumers and the industry and all the other stakeholders in the system very, very happy. So that is indeed the take-home message here out of our session. Would anyone like to add something to this aspect? Please do so right now.
Yes, Manvina, I would like to add one more thing, that
Yes, sir.
In the current situation is not acquisition, the current trend, the various kind of food items which are being consumed by the people. At the same time, there is some food policy of the government of India is there. The government is definitely promoting the millets, which were also mentioned by our last speaker in his speech. So the millets, they are now definitely they are on rise. But at the same time, there is not much debate on which kind of oils to be used and the other kind of food substances. So I would actually suggest that to all the authorities that all should come together and there should be a thorough study of the various food items on individuals, on the communities. Say, for example, we are using very less sesame oil, but now the maximum oil is the rice bran oil and the sunflower oil and the palm oil. And at the same time, there is high incidence of the hypertension and diabetes as well. So whether there is any relation of these kind of food items with the present epidemiology of the disease. So that is one aspect that needs to be studied by all the ministries and the academia.
Well, yes. Thank you so much for sharing such a wonderful thought. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. Well, that brings us to the end of our session. I would like to thank all the speakers on behalf of New Food Spectrum. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful ideas and your wonderful time with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.